After 4 years, we finally have a Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. Wait, what's that? After 4 years, it's a Jedi Survivor Cal Kestis? You gotta be kidding. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustabout Collector here. Today we are taking a look at least for me, the much anticipated Star Wars Vintage Collection Cal Kestis from Jedi Survivor. This figure recently was released and surprise, surprise, I actually found him on Walmart shelves. I forgot that I did not have a pre-order placed on him, so I was just waiting for him to come into normal inventory stock. And then I went into a Walmart and lo and behold, there he was. So I picked him up. It is really unfortunate to me that it took us this long to finally get a Cal Kestis figure. And even now, it's still not the Cal Kestis figure I feel like we really needed. Yet somehow we got that version in the 6-inch Black Series line, along with other Jedi Fallen Order Vintage Collection figures. I don't understand the choice of logic there, but you know what? We have a Cal Kestis in 3 3/4 inch now, and that makes me happy, despite which version it is. So taking a look here first at the card art, we have the Jedi Survivor logo there up at the top, the name Cal Kestis, and a really nice piece of artwork here showcasing both Cal and little BD-1. They chose a really great image here for this card art. It looks really, really awesome with the planet behind him. This color of green is also a really cool and unique color. I'm assuming that this is what will be the official Jedi Survivor color for future releases. Coming around to the back, we can see some of the other figures from this wave. I also picked up Cassian Andor. I already had the artillery troopers in the mail from, I believe, Entertainment Earth or something. And then I picked up one of the Klatooinian Raiders because that's going to be some really good custom fodder, I feel like. Now for the figure itself, I'm going to be very upfront when I say that this is what Vintage Collection done right looks like. This figure features a ton of all new sculpting. In fact, I can't really think of anything here that is reuse or repurposed from any previous molds. The sculpt work, the paint work, the detail, the articulation, all of it comes together really nicely in what amounts to a very nice Vintage Collection figure. Starting things off, let's take a look at accessories, and first up we have this really nice lightsaber. This is Cal's lightsaber from his old master. We learned that in the first game, and we also get an extra hilt for that same lightsaber, just with a little peg on the end there, allowing you to place it on his belt. So it's just a deactivated lightsaber hilt, though I suppose since this game is introducing a lot more lightsaber combat features, maybe at some point he will dual wield lightsabers, and this could also just be his extra lightsaber. We're also getting some blaster combat dynamics in the game, and so we also get this little blaster pistol. And this design really gives me like Western 6-shooter vibes, especially the way it's slung on his hip. It'll be really cool to see how he incorporates that into his fighting style and how the player can kind of influence that direction. Now, I wouldn't really call this an extra accessory since technically it's an extra character, but we also do get the BD-1 droid here. This is an all-new sculpt. We have not gotten this type of droid in the 3 3/4 inch scale yet. It has definitely been simplified from its Black Series counterpart. It has a ball joint at the head, giving you some movement there, side-to-side swivel, that sort of thing. And then the legs are also just on a swivel, and that is just one joint, unlike the Black Series where it has like full articulation from each joint. This does limit some of its posability. Unfortunately, you can't even move the antennas, which would give it some more personality, I feel like. But for the scale of this droid, I definitely understand some of the limitations that they had there, and I think they did a good job of capturing the look of BD-1. Out of the packaging, his legs are a little bit kind of squished together. I think with some hot water, you could probably get those to be spread apart a little bit more. Once again, just giving him a little bit better balance and maybe a little bit more personality in his posing. It's been a while since I played the game, but I would say they also got the scaling pretty good with this little guy. He's about 1 inch tall and he stands up pretty well on his own. Unfortunately, there is no place to really attach him to the back of Cal Kestis so that he can, ride around like his little buddy. But I'm sure some people will get creative in the customizing community and find a way to make that work regardless. Now as for Cal, I am really, really pleased with this figure. Once again, the sculpt work looks really cool. We have this all new costume design for Cal where I want to say that he's turned his old poncho into a sort of vest. I could be wrong about that. We might learn about that in the game, but it really does look like this is the same color, especially with that little orange bit up there, that this is his poncho just repurposed into something more functional. I also really enjoy just the look and feel of this costume design. Kind of gives me Han Solo vibes with the pants and the holster and the boots, but then the lapel here and the rolled sleeves give me a little bit of Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker, while also giving me some Kyle Katarn vibes from the Dark Forces games, which is a really, really cool choice. I don't know if it's intentional, I might just be reading into things, but I would love it if that was the intent. I think the sculpt work and the face printing tech really work hand in hand here to give a very accurate, human-looking face at the 3 3/4 inch scale. Once again, there's only so much detail you can really cram into a figure of this size, but Hasbro has really been going all out with their recent vintage collection releases, and that is very impressive and very much appreciated. There are a lot of other little details going on here, like little ammo pieces here, little cylinders here, which remind me of like the Imperial officer cylinders. I'm sure that we might figure out what some of these things are in the game, but we'll just have to wait and see. I think time will tell more than looking at an action figure will. Now, before we dive into the articulation on this figure, I also just wanted to point out that this figure feels very sturdy. One of my complaints with some previous vintage collection releases is that the plastic feels very soft and gummy, a little bit too flexible, especially in places like the hands. However, this figure does not feel that way at all. It feels very sturdy in hand. I don't feel like I'm going to break any of the joints. The hands have flexibility to them so that you can fit weapons into them very easily, but they don't feel soft or gummy. They feel very durable. I hope that whatever they did with this figure, they do in future releases as well, especially with that new upcoming Clone Trooper mold. I would love to see them done in this more durable feeling plastic when some of the previous releases have just felt kind of cheap. Now, for articulation on this figure, he has the double ball joint at the head, giving you some side-to-side tilt, forward and back. He also has a hinge and swivel at the shoulder all the way around, up to about 90 there, single jointed elbows that push into about 90. They can be spun all the way around, and those are pinless, which makes it look really nice when you're dealing with, an open arm like this. Both wrists are hinge and swivel all the way around, up and down. I really appreciate that choice as well, since we're dealing with lightsabers and blasters in both hands. Just gives you a lot more posing options there. There does appear to be a ball joint at the torso. It does give you some waist swivel, but not much else, no ab crunch forward and back, that sort of thing, just because of the sculpt work here. I appreciate that choice. I think it would have detracted a lot if they had just made an ugly cut through this vest that he has here. So I appreciate them keeping this solid, giving us that little swivel back and forth there, but removing some of that other articulation. At the hips, we have ball joints, which is one of the new improvements that Vintage Collection has made recently. So you can get forward and back to there, out to there. On the leg with the holster, you can still get a pretty good outward, pretty good forward, and the same back just because you're kind of stopped by that back piece of plastic there. The knees are also single jointed. You can get them to 90 there and of course swivel them side to side. At the foot, you have a hinge and rocker. You can pivot it forward to there. You can point it all the way back to there. And then, of course, you can pivot that side to side. Like I brought up at the start of this video, all in all, this is everything that makes a good Vintage Collection figure good. It has this great articulation that allows for really dynamic poses, especially since this figure is a Jedi. You can have him in all sorts of action poses and saber fighting poses. And it does a good job of allowing him to hold the lightsaber and the blaster in those same dynamic ways. And it really feels worth that $15 price point when you consider all of these accessories and everything that you're getting with this figure. It's very similar to the Dark Times Darth Vader, where you had those extra hands and the extra lightsaber hilts. It's a very premium Vintage Collection figure, and it's probably where the extra budget goes when some of the other figures only include like a blaster or like one accessory. All in all, I have to say this is a very good figure, and if you are a fan of Jedi Fallen Order, you definitely want to pick this one up. I'm also really excited for the Jedi Survivor game. I can't wait to play that and experience all of the new things that they are adding to that. But even so, even if I didn't play that game, I would still want this figure just because of Fallen Order. I hope they go back and they make his other appearances as well, maybe even give us some of the new costumes that we're going to get in Jedi Survivor. But for now, this is the Cal Kestis that we have, and I'm very, very happy we finally have it in 3 3/4 inch. For some quick comparisons here, he is next to the Dark Times Vintage Collection Vader and the Vintage Collection Purge Trooper. I think the scale works here. He would be probably similar in size to the Purge Trooper, and of course Vader should be considerably taller than him. I hope Jedi Survivor has more of these Purge Troopers, and I would love to see more of these variants made in the Vintage Collection, hopefully on the new Clone Trooper mold that's coming out soon. And of course, here he is next to some of the enemies that he will be encountering, some of them classic like Stormtroopers, and some of them new like Magna Guards. I'm really excited to see how they use the Magna Guards in Jedi Survivor. But all in all, this is such a solid figure. He scales really well with other figures. I know we've had some figures in previous Vintage Collection releases that are like undersized and weird like that. He scales really nicely, as you can see. He's very well made with a more durable plastic that doesn't feel super gummy. And I think what really sells this figure is, of course, the inclusion of BD-1. This is probably my favorite droid in all of Star Wars media right now. But that is where I am wrapping up this review. Like I said, I really feel like there is some good value here. Definitely more value than we've seen in some previous Vintage Collection releases recently. I'm not sure if that will be a trend going forward of any kind, but I will take it on a figure like this. As always, if you like this video, please consider leaving a like. Hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel and you want to see more toy-related content in your newsfeed. And down in the description, there is a link to my Instagram where I post toy photography and other toy-related content. But once again, thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, have a wonderful evening, noon, or night, depending on when you're watching this video, of course. And as always, I will catch you all in the next video.